In this episode, I'm gonna show you how to make authentic Sapporo-style miso ramen. There's three big types of ramen in Hokkaido: miso ramen, soy sauce ramen, and salt ramen. And Sapporo, where Winter Olympic Games were held in the past, is famous for miso ramen. And what I'm going to show you today is exactly how I used to make it at a restaurant back in my homeland Hokkaido. Let's get started. Step 1 is to prepare our miso-dare. To begin with, we're going to make the garlic paste that goes into it. Put some garlic cloves, cooking rice wine and water. Heat it on a high heat. Once it comes to a boil, turn down to low heat and skim off the scum. Simmer till the garlic is tender. You can check the softness by sticking a chopstick in. Take it off the heat and transfer it into a blender. Make it into a smooth and creamy paste. The paste isn't going smoothly, so I'm gonna add some more sake. Now a garlic paste is done. So let's talk about miso. For me, the perfect miso ramen needs to have the balance of sweetness and saltiness, so I use two types of miso. For the sweetness, I use mugi miso, which is barley miso. It's basically soybean paste fermented with barley malt. For the saltiness and rich miso flavor, I use inaka miso. This is made from rice malt and soybean paste. This is probably the most standard type of miso you can find in Japan. Here are the 15 things that I use. The two types of miso: sesame oil, the garlic paste I prepared earlier, cooking sake, mirin, a Japanese sweet sake, Thai fish sauce, oyster sauce, some sea salt, Ajinomoto, Japanese bonito stock powder, Char Siu sauce, ground sansho pepper, Japanese chili pepper, finally roasted sesame seeds. Mix them well with a whisk. Now I'm gonna simmer this on a medium heat for 5 minutes to dissolve all the powders and things. Make sure to keep stirring, otherwise it'll burn. Transfer it into a bowl, cool it down and rest it overnight in the fridge. It's best to use it from day 2. Now this seems a lot of ingredients, but believe me, this is a super delicious miso-dare. Step 2 is vegetables and pork mince. Now Sapporo Miso Ramen almost always has 3 kinds of vegetables, which are soybean sprouts, sliced onions, and Chinese cabbage, which I cut into pieces like this. And these vegetables add crispness, freshness, and additional layer of umami to the soup. Now I'm gonna prepare some pork mince, which is one of the essential toppings for Sapporo Miso Ramen. Heat some vegetable oil in a pan. Make sure it's the highest heat. Add some minced pork. Add a bit of the garlic paste. Sprinkle some freshly ground pepper. Fry till it's cooked all the way through. It's really important to have pork mince in your soup, because not only does it bring extra richness, but it'll make your ramen more diverse in texture as well. Step 3, let me show you the type of noodles and toppings. I'm using Sapporo-style alkaline egg noodles. They've got very nice chewy texture. If you can find them, you should definitely get them. But if you can't, other types of Japanese ramen noodles will do. Make sure to separate the noodles, otherwise they'll stick to each other while boiling. Topping wise, we need Char Siu, some menma, which is a kind of bamboo shoots, some tinned corn, some nice old butter. Now corn and butter work especially well with miso ramen, so make sure to have them. Some thinly sliced green onion, which adds freshness to your bowl of ramen. Step 4, the most fun part, assembling. So when it comes to making ramen, timings are very important, so I'm gonna heat my stock, boil some water for the noodles, and get everything else ready on my countertop. Put everything you need on the countertop. The ingredients for making the soup should be placed near the stove where you can reach by hand, because the soup making process has to go rather quickly to keep the crunchiness of the vegetables. Now let's start assembling the dish. From here, I'd like to show you the whole process with almost no cut, because I'd like you to watch what exactly you should do at what timings. Heat about 3 tablespoons of lard on a high heat. Don't use vegetable oil, because lard is the only thing that can bring out the true Sapporo Miso Ramen flavor. Once the lard has melted, add half a tablespoon of the garlic paste. Immediately after that, add a handful of onion slices, a handful of Chinese cabbage, handful of bean sprouts, and 3 tablespoons of the pork mince that we prepared earlier. Give it a quick stir until everything is nicely coated in lard. Now I'm gonna add 450 ml of ramen stock. I'm using a 120 ml ladle here, so I'm gonna add a bit less than 4 scoops of the stock. Now we're gonna simmer this for a minute or so, and meanwhile we're gonna start boiling the noodles. Now according to the instruction on the package of the noodles, they take about 3 minutes to cook. But since I like al dente texture, I'm just gonna boil them 1.5 minutes. After a minute, add 2.5 tablespoons of the miso-dare. That being said, the amount of the miso-dare depends on the saltiness of the miso, so you need to figure out your own ratio. Give it a good stir to dissolve the miso-dare completely. Add a sprinkle of Ajinomoto. This works to bring all the flavors and umami together. Now at this point, have a taste test. Do the final adjustment of the soup. Now the soup and the noodles are both ready, so let's dish them up. Put the noodles into a ramen bowl. Pour the soup over the noodles. Lay out all the toppings beautifully on top of the noodles. Green onions, menma, some corn, slices of char siu, finally some butter. Now a bowl of authentic Sapporo-style miso ramen is ready to serve. Alright, that's it for my Sapporo Miso Ramen lesson. I really hope you guys try out the recipe and enjoy the ramen. See you next time, bye bye.